Okay, let's face it, sealing chalk painted furniture can be a little intimidating. You've probably heard about furniture wax, but maybe you don't know how to use it. I know this because when I first started painting furniture, I didn't even know furniture wax existed. I just thought you covered it with polyurethane. Boy, was I wrong. So today I'm here to teach you all about furniture wax. Like, what kind of wax do I use? What is it made from? What kind of brushes do I use? Is there another way to seal furniture if I don't want to use wax? How to apply it? And even how to remove it, especially if you're painting a piece of furniture that already has wax on it. But before we get started on waxing, I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. I'm Heidi Marsh, and I am the owner here at Revive Heart and Home, and it is my goal to help you decorate your home in both eco-friendly and budget-friendly ways. So take a look around, be sure to subscribe, I would love it, and let's get waxing. Okay, welcome, and let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk to you today about is why seal your piece. So there's a caveat here. Not all chalk-based paints are created the same. If you are using Amy Howard at Home or a Maker Studio chalk-based paint, then it doesn't necessitate that you seal it. Although I still recommend doing it based on the surface. It is self-sealing, so you don't have to, but again, I recommend that you do it. If you're using another brand of chalk paint, I always recommend that you seal it. So there are two basic ways that you can seal a piece. You can use an acrylic sealer or a natural wax. Amy's Howard at Home's acrylic sealer is called matte sealer, and this is the kind of thing that you want to do on a high use surface. For instance, if you are going to paint the top of a table that's going to be sat at with kids and all that stuff, and there could be crayons and all sorts of things, I would use a matte sealer on that. If you want to go the more natural route, and if you want a little bit of shine, or you want to be able to control the amount of shine that you have, then I recommend waxing. And that's the majority of what I'm going to go over today. So the wax. There's so many types of wax. What kind of wax do you use? So let's talk about that. First, there is harder wax that usually come in a puck like this, or a metal container of some sort. And then there is more like liquid wax, which comes in a bottle. Now, what's the difference and why use one or the other? The end result in durability and sheen is really going to be the same with either one. How you put it on and how flexible it is in terms of any advanced waxing techniques that you might want to try out is where the difference is going to be. So let's take the pucks, for example. Now, Amy Howard at Home has 4 different pucks. I have 3 of them here. She has a clear wax, which is just like it sounds, completely clear. She has a liming wax, which is a white wax. She also has a light antique wax, which is a little bit brown and yellow, and that is used for antiquing a piece, just like it sounds. She also has a dark wax, which is used for antiquing, but on a little bit more in depth, to give you a little more depth of a look. Okay, so the clear wax, or the wax in the puck, is made from something called carnauba wax, and that is what you see on bowling alley floors, and it dries really hard and slick. And if you're not doing anything special with the piece, you're just wanting to apply a protective coat, then this is what I recommend. Or if you have a piece that you want just a little bit of age to it, then I would recommend this, and it will give you a little bit of a beige brown sheen to your wax. If you're curious about the liming wax, I have another tutorial I did specifically on the 2 types of white wax, and you can find that here as well. So the other kind of wax is your liquid wax, and this comes in a bottle, and she's got 3 kinds. She's got something called Mind Your Own Beeswax, Dark Antiquing Wax, and then her Cerusian wax, which is the white wax. Now this will squirt out, and this is made from beeswax. And the reason I love this, and this is actually my go-to wax, is because it's a little more flexible in some of the advanced techniques that I use on my furniture. And it's also really good for getting in cracks and crevices in carved furniture. It also smells wonderful and it dries to a satin sheen. Okay, so let's quickly talk about some common questions. So, is wax safe? Generally it is. Once it's dried and cured, you're good to go. Some of the waxes have petroleum-based products in it, so it's not something you want to keep around babies, so if they're going to ingest it or anything. So just be careful of that. So what can you use waxes on? Generally, I'm in this tutorial talking about chalk painted furniture, but really you can use it on just about any surface. I use it on top of my art as a top coat. You can use it on wood. You can use it on crafts and everything. So really anything that you want to seal, you can use wax on. So is wax waterproof? That's a great question. So technically wax is water resistant. So you will see water bead up on wax when it touches it, and they don't mix well together. However, over time that water will end up damaging your surface. And with wax, you generally want to reapply it annually, especially with the carnauba wax. Okay, next question. What do I use to apply the wax? So what kind of brushes? Now this is really, really important. Because wax is a natural substance, you need to use a natural fiber brush. And there are two that I recommend. If you are doing a small job and you don't really want to invest in a quality brush, you can buy natural bristle chip brushes. And I'll put a link to this and all of the other supplies in the descriptions below, so be sure to check that out. If you are doing more than one piece, or you feel like you really want the best of the best, then I recommend getting a natural fiber hog hair brush. And they are very, very dense and they are round. And this is really going to allow you to get in any carved details. And it gives you also more coverage, because you can see the bristles are definitely tighter and more packed than they are in this brush. This can also leave bristle marks, and sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't, depending on what look you're going for. But this is my go-to brush, and if you are a furniture painter who's doing this a lot, I get two. I use one for, actually I use three. I use one for clear and light wax, I use another for my white wax, and then I use another for my dark waxes. So now let's actually learn how to apply the wax. Decided what kind of wax you want to use, it's time to apply it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that your painted piece is dry. It's usually dry to the touch in about 30 minutes, but before I wax, I usually like to wait about an hour just to be sure. So I have a painted piece here, and the other thing you will need are, I take my old Amazon boxes and I just cut them in little 4" by 4" squares so I can toss them out when I'm done. Okay, so let's first try my favorite, which is Vintage Wood Mind Your Own Beeswax. And I should say, I usually shake it up a little bit because there is some liquid, and if you don't shake it up, then the liquid's just gonna come out first rather than the wax. So I do that. You're gonna dab on a little bit like that, and you're going to dip it in here, swirl it around, make sure that your entire brush is covered. Okay, get it up in the bristles. And then I take a second one and I offload it just a little bit. You just don't want any like gobs of wax on there, okay? So leave that there. Then you're just going to apply it in on the flat surfaces in long strokes, and you can swirl it around and dab it in the places that are carved. So I'm gonna go like this couple times. Now you see the brush has left a bunch of wax right here, so I'm just going to make sure you clean that off. You don't ever want to leave gobs of wax. So I'm just going to go back and forth here, pull off any excess, and you can tell where the wax is going on because it leaves a bright shiny sheen. Okay, again, back and forth. And when you see that it starts to leave areas uncovered, that's when you're going to want to upload your brush again. Okay, that's how you apply it with this. Now I'm going to show you how to use the clear wax that's in the puck. So I'm going to open that, and again, it looks like that. And you're going to take your round brush, and this is a little bit harder to use when you have a chip brush, but this, you're just going to dip it in here. And now this is harder than this, mind you, so you got to give it some muscle. Get it in and cover it like this. See all that white stuff on there? You're going to offload it again. You never want to just take all of that and deposit it on here. You want to offload it. And then just going to do the same thing. Now this, I use a little bit more pressure with this because it is a hard wax. And I often will do a circular motion first, and then I'll go back and go up and down. And just make sure it's totally covered in there. Okay. Now, the most important part. You gotta wait. And you can't just wait, walk away, and do something else for a couple hours. You need to wait for it to come to tack. Now, tack is a technical term, and it means, like, it's short for tacky, like tack. So think of it like tacky. And wax generally comes to tack anywhere from 15 minutes to a half an hour, again, depending on the humidity. But what it basically means is it's not slimy anymore. Like right now, I can easily do this, and it comes up on my fingers, and it feels like liquid still. When it's tacky, you can't do that anymore, and it has a light bounce to it from your finger. So this is also still really, really wet. So you want to wait, set a timer, wait for about 15 minutes, check it. If it's still kind of slimy, wait another 5 minutes, and then do so until it feels like the back of a sticky note. So you're going to wait for that, and then it's time to buff. Okay, I'm sure you guys have all seen the movie Karate Kid. You remember when he goes wax on, wax off? This is the wax off part. So I'm not going to make you do it in circles though. You're going to need a lint-free rag. Now this is super important that you get a lint-free rag, because if you don't, the little fibers on the rag are going to be left behind in the wax, and you won't be able to get them out. And that will drive you crazy, or your client crazy. So you're going to take your lint-free rag, and you're just going to buff it lightly like this. Now you can go in swirls too, but know that kind of the pattern that you do it in will stay a little bit on your piece. So if you want swirls, do swirls. If you want it just back and forth, I go back and forth. Now you don't want to put a lot of pressure, but just lightly remove any excess and buff it just like this. Now, this is where I talked about the sheen. So if you want it just to stay at a satin sheen, just do what I did. If you want it to be shiny, keep buffing it. Like, buff it hard and go back over it multiple times. The more you buff it, the shinier it will get. So if you want that shiny, shiny, shiny feel, just keep buffing, and stop when you get the sheen that you want. Okay, when that is done, you will want to let that dry and cure, and it will take about 2 to 3 weeks, again, depending on humidity, for it to cure. And that means that it bonds fully with the paint or the surface underneath, and then it becomes totally usable. So until it cures, I would refrain from heavy use. You could go ahead and put your furniture in the room of its choice. I would just not put anything heavy or use it maybe for schoolwork or something like that until it has had a chance to cure. Okay, so that's it. That's all that you need to know for Waxing 101. I hope it was helpful and hope it was easy to understand. If you have any questions at any time, feel free to email me at revivebyheidi@gmail.com. And it would mean the world to me if you could help me grow my YouTube channel so I can continue bringing great tutorials on chalk painting, upcycling, crafting, and all sorts of other inspiration. So be sure to subscribe and have a fabulous day.